Does it ever occur to you that someone is keeping tabs on you? As the waves gently lapped at his feet, Elon Musk stood at the edge of the ocean. He was alone with his thoughts as the world around him fell into a deep silence. As everything, even though he was famous and successful, something was still lacking. No amount of success or wealth could satisfy his sense of disorientation and emptiness. It was common for Elon to have these kinds of moments when he would stare into space and wonder whether there was more to life than what meets the eye. The more he looked, the more far away the solution seemed, but he never stopped trying. As the sun dipped below the horizon that night, it lighted up the ocean with a warm golden glow. Elon experienced a sense of insignificance as if he were insignificant relative to a larger context. With his eyes closed, he asked the universe in a low voice, "God, are you there?" There was an enveloping stillness. He was unprepared. He was, after all, a rational scientific man. However, he yearned for something greater, something encompassing in this very instant. He waited for a response which he doubted would ever come. His heart raced. Before he knew it, he was overcome by a sense of being watched, not by others, but by himself. It seemed like the air itself had changed. Your anxiety knotted Elon's throat. In his heart, he sensed a message that spoke to his soul. I am here. Though he didn't perceive a voice, he perceived its presence. This is where I've always been. Elon was taken aback by the sensation when he opened his eyes. Oh, something. Had it slipped his mind? Something had changed, and he couldn't quite put his finger on it. He felt a deep connection. Letting himself be consumed by the moment, he remained still. This was only the first stage. How is it all related? The emotion that had swept over Elon at the beach remained with him. The unusual event stayed with him for days. Despite his best efforts, his mind failed to make sense of it, despite how genuine it felt. Did God do it? Had it been all in his head? He felt agitated and hungry for answers as these questions whirled around him. He chose to consult an expert. Although Elon usually avoided discussing private issues, this was an exception. A strong desire to comprehend what had transpired compelled him. A man of profound religion, who was a personal friend of his, he sought out. They found one another at a peaceful cafe far from the din of the outside world. Elon paused, uncertain of where to start after exchanging pleasantries. Last but not least, he said, "Do you believe in God?" He was taken aback by the question. His acquaintance said, Elon wasn't famous for believing in the supernatural, but rather for his intelligence and skepticism. However, his demeanor had changed. He sounded weak and somewhat innocent. With pity, his companion gazed upon him. A soft "I do" came from his lips in response. What gives? While sitting by the water, Elon drew a deep breath and described what had happened. Elon detailed the presence he had sensed and the words that had entered his thoughts, and his companion listened intently, nodding in agreement. "Oh, it's not unusual," his friend relayed. "When the bustle of the world disappears and there is only silence," Elon was captivated. "So, what gives?" Inquiring, he spoke up. "Why would God contact a sinner like me? Were you not considered?" His companion rebutted, "God doesn't pick his elect according to their inherent qualities. Those who are seeking and receptive to his voice are the ones he seeks out." A shiver went down Elon's back. Is that all? Unaware that he'd been looking the entire time, the idea was reassuring and unnerving at the same time. After devoting his life to scientific inquiry, he suddenly felt a pull towards something more profound. It was something he couldn't put his finger on. The comment said, by his friend lingered in Elon's mind. For someone like him, who had lived his life devoted to reason and reasoning, the thought that God had sought him out was difficult to grasp. However, he had an innate sense that something significant had transpired that day by the sea. Neither was it a dream. It was too real to be a coincidence. Elon began to spend more time alone as the day stretched into weeks. As some wait at night, he would sit in his yard and stare at the stars, trying to figure out if someone or something was keeping an eye on him. It became increasingly clear to him that the cosmos was too big and complicated to be an accident as his thoughts progressed. Like a creator, some power that bestowed significance on all things was necessary. He had the same experience again one night while sitting alone in the starry sky. It was more powerful and reassuring this time. Words were not audible to him, but that was sufficient. It was sufficient. "I am here" seemed to be God's way of beckoning him. "You have my support." In Elon's eyes, tears welled up. For a long time, he had felt estranged from reality. Although he had accomplished a great deal, it had not satisfied the void within. At last, he had a sense of completeness. He experienced love not because of his actions, but just because of his being. Unsure if anyone could hear him, he muttered, "Thank you," into the night. That was irrelevant to him, though. It was sufficient for him to believe in his heart. Following that starry night, Elon's life began to undergo a transformation. Something deep had been ignited by the subtle murmur within him, and he could no longer disregard it. The desire to succeed and do things had faded from him. Another tug, one that was more profound and significant, was what he actually felt. I don't know. But even though he kept asking himself that question, he never got a response before anyone else got out of bed. He would get up at the crack of dawn every day. He likes to relax in his home and just be in the peace and quiet. His soul, rather than his ears, was listening. He had trust that something would arrive, even if he had no idea what he was waiting for. As the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon one morning, Elon experienced an unfamiliar sensation, a pull in his heart, an emotion he couldn't quite put his finger on. The gut reaction was to pay attention. He shut his eyes and gave his full attention to the feeling. Pay close attention. Initially, there was complete stillness. Nevertheless, thereafter, he experienced a reassuring presence from within. On this occasion, it was more the mere sensation of ease. The message was clear. It wasn't blatant or aggressive, but it was obvious nonetheless. The presence informed you that your presence is not random. Every blessing has been bestowed upon you by a higher power. Anxiety gripped Elon. Telling you what that meant. Why was he doing this? Even though he had founded businesses, transformed sectors, and impacted millions, he still felt a nagging suspicion that this wasn't the voice's intended message. Beyond the material realm, there was an immaterial quality about it. He lost himself in contemplation for the remainder of the day. What may be God's desire for him? So as long as he could remember, he had felt his life's mission was to test the boundaries of human possibility via technological invention. But now he was beginning to understand that life was about more than only progress. He yearned for slumber that night. There is a purpose for everything that has happened to you, and he couldn't stop thinking about it as he paced his room. For what reasons? How was he supposed to proceed? Despite the fact that he'd accomplished more than the majority of people could ever hope to, it was insufficient. Something was surely lacking from his life. Tensions were rising. It seemed like Elon was about to find something big, but he couldn't put his finger on it. Like a shadow in the corner of his eye, he could sense it looming just beyond his reach. But he still hadn't arrived, despite how near he was. Elon kept his morning routine of waiting and listening as the days and weeks passed. The more he pondered the message he had gotten, the more bewildered he became. Where could he discover the direction he so desperately needed? This was different from his entire life of depending on reason and logic to solve difficulties. A spiritual and emotional issue at hand. He noticed a solitary woman seated on an outdoor bench one evening as he was getting ready to depart from his office. Her clothes were faded and her hands trembled slightly, giving her a weary appearance. He was captivated by her in some way. He strode over to her without giving it any thought. He spoke softly, asking, "Are you okay, weary eyes?" She gazed up at him. "I've lost everything," she whispered. For her, Elon felt anguish as she said, "My home, my job, my family, I have nothing left." Although he had witnessed poverty on previous occasions, this woman's plight moved him profoundly. He hesitated for a second, not knowing how to respond. However, the words he had felt on a deeper level, "You have been given everything for a purpose," came back to him. He hesitated no more and took a seat next to her. "You're not by yourself," he whispered softly. "I'm here to help." His arrival startled the woman. "Why would you help me? You don't even know me." Elon grinned, "Because I believe that everything happens for a reason. And right now, I think I was meant to be here with you." There was a light bulb moment. Elon finally grasped a part of the problem. For him, it wasn't all about the personal gains. Though what he could offer to other people was the main focus. It had nothing to do with creating technological marvels or establishing mighty empires. Making the world a better place via the power of simple acts of kindness was the central theme. People like the woman sitting on the bench started popping up in Elon's life more often as the days went by. His perspective shifted, and he began to see the world not as an unending list of issues, but as a community of broken individuals who desperately needed his empathy and understanding. He pondered to himself one night, "Have you ever considered the immense influence we can have on another person's life?" This was a question he'd never considered before, but it suddenly felt like the most pressing one facing him. Based on this new knowledge, Elon started taking action, beginning with simple acts of kindness, like lending an ear or a hand to those he met on a daily basis. He gradually expanded his circle of influence. He felt more fulfilled as he provided more. It was an emotion he'd never felt before, and it was one that his fame and fortune had never bestowed upon him. His transformation became apparent to everyone. Even Elon's coworkers and friends noticed that he wasn't giving his full attention to his job anymore. He had matured into someone who was more attuned to his surroundings, sympathetic, and patient. He had become more than just an intellectual, a kind man at heart. He was. As Elon sat down to think about everything that had transpired, he sensed the presence once more. "You are on the right road," it said. "Keep going." The moment has arrived for Elon to tell others about his quest. He finally broke his silence and shared the message. This mattered too much. Something greater than what meets the eye and touch must be known by the world. Told me they would take the time to listen, Everyone could access a higher purpose and a more profound significance. He chose to share his story publicly, not as a tech tycoon or billionaire, but as a man who had discovered something bigger than himself. Everyone took notice. They had previously looked up to Elon for his accomplishments and moments, but now they could see a more human side, one that was trusting, modest, and vulnerable. Telling the assembled multitude, "We are all here for a reason," Elon addressed the gathering. Each of us has been given something: gifts, talents, opportunities. But these things aren't just for us. They are meant to be shared, not to be used for the good of others. He spoke to millions of people. The message he preached touched the lives of many and gave them hope. Finding one's place in a world where one frequently felt alone was more important than monetary achievement or prosperity. Elon glanced out at the audience. His lecture came to a close. The hushed murmur that had preceded the whole way was back with him. "Well done," it proclaimed. "Now go and continue to love, to give, and to inspire." Elon grinned broadly. Even though he was unsure of his future, he was convinced that he would never be alone on his journey. Even after several days had passed, Elon still felt as though he was being led by a higher power. It was as if the cosmos were pulling him ahead, directing his every step, with an invisible hand in every choice he made, in every word he spoke. This calmness made him question whether it was the solution he had been seeking. While he was alone in his study one night, gazing at the stars through the window, his mind drifted back to the first time God had spoken to him. "Interpret it for me. Why should I choose him? Was it a message, or was it merely a brief pause for thought?" Even though he had pondered these issues ad nauseum, he finally felt like he was getting close to the answer to something far greater. A gentle voice beckoned from the corridor as the door swung open with a groan. His helper Anna asked, "Elon, are you okay?" Over the years, she had evolved into much more than a mere assistant. She had become a treasured companion and confidant. With a small smile teasing his lips, Elon turned to face her. "I've been contemplating this for quite some time, Anna," he declared, his voice gentle yet sincere. Anna entered the room with a look of worry on her face and said about what happened, the moment when everything changed. "Sells my buy, you mean when you heard?" Elon nodded in agreement. Yes, God spoke to me that day, and I believe he's been guiding me ever since. I feel a sense of peace now, Anna. But I also feel like there's more I need to understand, more I need to share with the world." Anna remained silent despite her widening gaze. Despite their long friendship, Elon had never revealed something so personal to her as this. He appeared different, calmer, more attuned to something beyond the material world than the guy she had always imagined, a man motivated by logic, reason, and science. What do you mean by more?" she inquired, her voice scarcely audible, and above a whisper. Getting out of his chair, Elon walked over to the window. As he stared up at the stars, his mind wandered again. "I think I've been given a purpose, Anna. Not just in business or technology, but in life. There's a reason why I'm here, why I've been given all that I have, and I think I'm supposed to share it." He took a moment to look at her. "God spoke to me that day for a reason. It wasn't just for me. I believe it was a message for the world, for everyone, to remind us that we're not alone, that there is a greater force guiding us, even when we can't see it." Anna listened intently, taking in every word he said. His conviction was profound, and she could sense it in his voice. "Elon, I'm not sure what you're up to, but I think you're onto something big," she claimed, her voice betraying a mixture of wonder and doubt. That serene smile of Elon's had been his constant companion since that day he returned, and he said, "Whatever this is, I want to be a part of it." A part of Elon knew this was only the start, though. "Thank you, Anna, but the journey is mine to walk. I can only share what I've learned. I can only try to be the messenger." Everyone should have heard this message. For days, he thought about how he would tell everyone about his discovery. The message needed to be shared, but he was unsure of how to do it. It was too strong to keep to himself. He was careful not to come across as insane or hallucinating. He had to figure out how to move people emotionally as well as intellectually. Elon had a revelation one night as he strolled through a peaceful park. Consider the possibility that he penned a letter sharing with the world his thoughts and feelings regarding all that had transpired since that fateful moment. He would convey his thoughts and feelings based on faith and hope rather than rationality. An uncomplicated, forthright, and honest letter would suffice. The message of trust, love, and peace that he had received so vividly would be carried by it. Elon got back to work that night at his workstation, writing with a fresh vigor. In addition to writing for an audience, he did it for his own benefit. He had wasted a lot of time striving for achievement in pursuits that were ultimately meaningless. He had found the truth, and now he was writing to remember it. The word started as follows in the world. I want to share with you something that has changed my life, something that I believe can change all of our lives. We are not alone in this world. There is a force, a power, a presence that guides us whether we see it or not. I've felt it. I've experienced it, and I know it's real. God spoke to me, and his words were simple, but they have echoed in my heart ever since. He reminded me that we are here for a reason, and that reason is to love, to serve, and to be the best version of ourselves. Don't know what the future holds, but I do know I will never walk alone again, and neither will you. We are all part of something greater than ourselves, and then together we can make this world a better place. Let's not wait for tomorrow to start making a difference. Kindest time is now. A burden was lifted from Elon's shoulders as he completed penning the letter. It was as if a weight had been lifted off his shoulders and he could finally relax. Sharing the good news of God's love and wisdom with everyone was his life's mission at this point. He realized what lies ahead will be a challenging one. His intentions will be questioned by naysayers and detractors. However, Elon had lost interest. All that counted was the fact that he had perceived a divine voice. As Elon Musk's journey unfolded, it became clear that his life's mission had evolved beyond mere technological achievements and personal success. His heart and soul were now driven by the quiet, profound purpose of giving, loving, and inspiring. Added by the mysterious yet undeniable presence he had encountered, Elon's story reminds us all that life is about more than what we can achieve. It's about what we can give to the world and the connections we make along the way. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video and immerse yourself in this heartfelt journey of self-discovery and purpose. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more inspiring and thought-provoking stories. Together, let's explore deeper meanings, celebrate acts of kindness, and uncover the extraordinary within the ordinary. Stay tuned. More incredible stories are coming your way.